Welcome to Truth is Here. I'm Mubbina Hashmi. Today is the 28th of June 2018 and I'm videoing this particular video from my bedroom here in Bristol. Not long ago I uploaded a video about this very brochure that I have here in front of us, which I explained in my other video has photographs of two young men who have a striking resemblance to my nephews. I have two elder brothers, and the eldest brother has a son who looks 95% like the young man on the front cover of this brochure by Santander. Santander is a nationwide bank, as most of you know. Those of you outside the UK may not know Santander, so I'm just giving you this bit of information. This young man, he looks about 17, 18, teenager, excuse me, has much resemblance to my nephew. The hair, the glasses are the same, and the neck is the same, the style of clothing, the size, the dimensions, very, very compatible to the appearance of my eldest brother's son. On the back we have a second young man who looks like my other brother's son 100%. This young man may look slightly older than my nephew, but to be honest, it is a striking resemblance. The third individual, my niece, tried to sign up for an account with Santander in the December of 2016, but they resumed by playing the broken record against my niece, who's also a teenager, and it took her a record of 13 months before she was able to open up a bank account with Santander. That was really owing to myself intervening and accompanying her to the bank in the town centre here in Bristol, in Cabot Circus, or near Cabot Circus, just outside the galleries actually, to be honest. That's where it's actually based. This kind of broken record has been played on me for 20 years now, and it looks as though the same regulatory body, the Royal Pharmaceutical Society of Great Britain and the General Pharmaceutical Council, initially it was the RPSGB, they are keeping an eye on my family and have admitted to being able to do so. Let me just show you some evidence. There we go, hand it over. This article was written by Mr. Graham Saville-Edwards for a publication known as Insight, which is published by the PDA, or the Pharmacist Defence Association, which is an organisation that offers advice and insurance to members of the profession of pharmacy here in the UK. Excuse me. It says the society can even demand that anyone whom they believe has information about you which thinks it's relevant to the inquiries has to deliver it up. So if a granny has got a photo of you when you were younger holding the hand of the girl next door inappropriately, and they think it is evidence that shows you may be a risk to the public, they can demand that she hands it over. And yes, if she does not, they can get a court order against your granny too. So they are obviously focusing on my family, and it's not very pleasant. I'm afraid they are coercing my nephews and nieces at school, college and at work, and threatening them in these ways, i.e. a broken record, not allowing them to progress despite their outstanding performance, and just barring their way so they get the message and they have to compromise what they're saying. My brother, as I've mentioned in another video, my family, I've said, are being targeted. My brother works for Bristol University, and in 2005 he shared something with me. He told me he had come up with a novel idea which could assist undergraduate students. Back then, I advised my brother to keep his idea private and not to kind of share it before he secured protection for his idea. At the time, he was quite relaxed and said, no, my manager is nice. I'm going to speak to my manager. This was about the same time that the Royal Society were, along the GPHC, were doing their stuff, i.e. monitoring myself. They'd been doing it since 1998, whilst I was doing my training in Carmarthen in West Welsh General Hospital to train as a pharmacist. My year's training, that is. Well, anyway, I made 1 or 2 inquiries to find out if he could speak to somebody, but I had no joy because I was very, the expression, I held my cards close to my chest and I didn't give any information about his idea to anyone because he obviously I didn't want him to just give his idea to anyone without protecting it. And so I wasn't able to get any advice for him. It turned out that it appears he's shared his idea with his department at Bristol University. I can't say exactly who, because I'm not entirely sure, but they've stolen his idea and he's not got anything for it. Now, how did he put himself in a situation? I personally feel maybe he's being blackmailed because now his children are also taking the brunt of it. This is his son, and his daughter's the lady I mentioned, the young lady who got astounding GCSE results, 9 A's and some B's as well, and was prevented and barred from having a bank account with Santander back in 2016. It may well be that he's been coerced to say something about me and he's given in to them. And you know how brothers and sisters have their little childhood fights and arguments and tiffs. Well, it may well be he said something not very nice about me, afraid that he would lose his job and he wouldn't be able to look after his wife and children. And now he's being blackmailed and they've taken his idea and he's not really in a position to say very much. One side of me says, serves you right to my brother for giving in to them. You should have stuck your neck out for me, your sister. And I'm quite disappointed that he didn't. And then another side of me is disgusted that such an organisation such as the University of Bristol could take advantage of one of its employees or of anyone and steal their idea from them, knowing the situation and predicament they've found themselves in, owing to what Mr. Graham Settle Edwards describes as the regulatory machine, which is what the Royal Society is, a machine that can destroy not just individuals' lives, the lives of families too. And yes, there is a hit list, and I'm definitely on it. My friend is on it. Incidentally, my friend, who was a pharmacist, the one in London, both her sisters lost their jobs. Both are teachers. Neither of them is in the pharmacy profession. And strangely enough, both of them have separate cases where they lost their jobs. And then my friend, the third daughter, there are 3 children, 3 females in that family, and they have a younger brother. But all 3 daughters were witnessed by myself, by their own parents, as losing their jobs, and had to take their cases up in tribunals. So that's their story, and I've told you my brother's situation and my own family. So the hit list is pretty horrendous, and we all know about the situation of the late Marwa Shabini, whose details also match my own, and she was murdered in the courtrooms of Germany. And let's not forget, her husband was also stabbed about 16 times and shot in the mayhem on the occasion. So this doesn't sound like a string of coincidences. To me, there seems to be some organisation taking place here, which we can easily pinpoint, and we can conclude that it is a machine, and it is a devastating machine as well. Yes, returning to the brochure by Santander. I'm afraid that the General Pharmaceutical Council and the RPSGB may claim that I myself have produced these brochures and that I take photographs of young females and males, by the looks of it, and somehow try to dub me as a pornographer or a paedophile, which the tutor, the pediatric tutor in Carmarthen Hospital was already sowing the seeds for back then. I was aware that she was doing this along with her colleagues, both her superiors and her subordinates, and so I was very wary. Back then my nieces had just been born back in 1998, and I was just at the beginning of my pre-registration training, so there were no children in our house. I am in fact the youngest child, the youngest of 4 children here in Great Britain, where we all live. So then I knew that something was in the pipeline, and for the last 20 years I've really been having to live this allegation which was in the pipeline and has now, by the looks of it, started surfacing almost openly and formally even. I'm afraid my nieces are being threatened and being asked to say things. These photographs, which anyone can see objectively, look almost 100% like my nephews, and then I've described the third situation of my niece. These photographs, how did they get access to them? Who instructed Santander to do this? Are my brothers involved with their employers in some kind of a taking photographs of children network? I wonder. And of course I'm going to have to take the brunt of that and take responsibility when it has absolutely nothing to do with me. The only photographs I have are the type you take with your family, group photographs, photographs of parties that we've had, outings we've had, nothing out of the norm. And I would be very, very upset and extremely angry if along with my GPs and other agencies, another plan was in the pipeline to try and make things appear otherwise. Yes, so I've explained it's impossible for me to have produced this brochure, or any brochure for that matter. My job history does include a small work episode with Latcham Direct, who produce brochures exactly like these type, of this caliber, of this quality, for leading companies in the UK. Latcham Direct, let me just explain, are based in the Bristol area. They are a leading provider in digital print and marketing services. And whilst I was there, I worked alongside a small team who are responsible for the assembling and compiling of public information packs for some of the UK's most leading brands, and Santander is definitely one of them, i.e. Santander is definitely a leading brand and would come under that category. So it could well be that the RPSGB and the General Pharmaceutical Council will say, look, you worked for Latcham Direct. Yes, you are responsible for producing these photographs of your nephews and God knows what else. But I assure you I haven't. And I am really innocent. My referees from there, one actually in particular, a male referee, who I was working with, him and a female colleague, a Pakistani female like myself, we got on very well, and I still use him as a reference. The colleague who was working alongside myself, she can also vouch that I am a reasonably nice person, and right at the beginning she was very interested in offering me a Saturday job with herself, helping disabled children. She provides support for their families on weekends when she takes the children for a day and looks after them along with some volunteers and paid members in a community centre or some kind of a public building. She asked me if I was interested and that I would be changing nappies. I thought about it, and then I thought, no, it's better I don't. I've got a job here with Latcham Direct, and also I can imagine the General Pharmaceutical Council and the Royal Society trying to intervene and trying to make an arrangement to make me look like I am a paedophile and that I am molesting the children. Of course, I didn't share all of this with her, but that was one of my concerns, and so I declined. But the fact that she offered me tells you that she felt that she could do just that. Excuse me. I don't think the Royal Society and the GPHC have the right to do this to myself and to my colleagues or my referees and try and intervene and intercept any relationship I have with somebody and orchestrate such activities. I have to live in fear of them doing this, and I haven't been proven wrong. Look at all the things that have happened, all my certificates, which I haven't been allowed to have for the last 20 years. If I've done any courses, I don't get my certificates. I have to chase them up for a year or two. And in the case of JHP training in Birmingham, it's been, how long has it been? It's been about 10 years, hasn't it? 8 or 10 years. And they still haven't given them to me. And I have chased them up. So that tells you something about the arrangement and the concerns that the establishments have. They can't let me have anything. I can't do anything without being very, very badly harassed. Well, of course, this takes its toll, and I do have a chronic cough and stress-related illness in general. So I am really suffering from all of this, and I'm not even allowed to have a lawyer. If I've tried, I've found that my lawyers either decline, refuse to represent me, or they go under instruction. Perhaps some people would say yes because you're a criminal. Well, that's actually not the case. Real hardcore criminals always secure legal assistance, and I've never really been able to do that. So it must be because my case is so clearly one which can demonstrate I've been very badly abused by the establishments of the UK. And this in itself is the reason why I'm not allowed to have legal representation in the courtroom. The last lady who had my details was slaughtered in the courtrooms, and her husband was almost murdered also. That is how they deal with us, and it is really astounding and shocking that we can't do anything about it. One would hope that people would go on the internet and see my story and at least say, yes, you have a valid point, but people, it seems, are too afraid to speak up and state the obvious.